Thank you for watching Animated One, where we highlight the news making headlines in the land of the brave and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. In the news today, 2 Bipa officials suspended over forgery allegations in $50 million lithium deal. NamPower switch off North Southern Areas light. NSFAF not funding IUM's new course. I am Glenora Shipura, and this is Animated One. In our midday news update, NamPower, who has deposited money into an Angolan oil block, was recently refunded by Senegal. It said in a statement this morning that all the parties are fully committed to making the transaction happen. NamPower and its partners in a subsidiary called Sangara Energies had paid $524 million of the required $8 billion for a 10% stake in the oil block. It is understood that NamPower and their partners in the joint venture had until July this year to ensure they paid the $8 billion, with July approaching and Senegal paying back the deposit money over what it calls negative publicity allegations that some of NamPower's payments were not properly authorized. The deal seems difficult to pull off. NamPower did not explain in its statement whether the refunded deposit has been paid back to Senegal, which had given the joint venture partners 48 hours last week to clear their air over approval allegations. Remember to engage with these stories on our social media throughout the broadcast. Visual news coming up after the break.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
Jullie is weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
Let's take a look at our visual news. The India-Namibia Center of Excellence in Information Technology was officially inaugurated last night at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. The center was inaugurated by Deputy Prime Minister Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Subrahmanyam Jaishankar, Namibia's Minister of Higher Education Dr. Ita Kanji-Murangi, and Dr. Errol Nwabab, NAST Vice Chancellor. Jaishankar said the center has been offering courses since November 2019, and 275 professionals, including government officials from various ministries, students, teachers, and researchers, have participated so far. I am happy to note that a student from this center has won the trophy for the first position at the 6th Namibia Cybersecurity Competition, he added.
You from that side and imagine okay, just 2 minutes.
Tell us, are you ready?
Are we all ready?
Okay, I think we can start pulling.
Thank you.
Thank you. An outcome of the development cooperation and capacity building partnership between India and Namibia, and it is being pursued in line with our shared desire to develop human resources, especially of the youth, and give them the right skills in the technology domain. It of course reflects the long-standing people-to-people friendship and linkages, which I think you heard the Deputy Prime Minister remind us. And today, in fact, when I called on His Excellency the President, he himself was witness to events in our past history for which really such sentiments never have adequate words to describe them. Now, I'm happy to note that this center has started offering courses going back to November 2019, when the Center for Development of Advanced Computing, CDAC, provided the course materials, the reference books, and much of the IT hardware and software. We recognize that the remaining installations were completed in very challenging circumstances during the pandemic, and I would again like to particularly acknowledge and appreciate those who went the extra mile to make that happen. 6 master trainers from Namibia were given training in CDAC in India, and their role and contribution, I think, should also be recognized. And I thank the Vice Chancellor and his entire team for their unstinted support and collaboration to make this project a reality. With the objective of developing industry-oriented programs to address skill requirements in areas such as cybersecurity, big data analytics, and e-governance applications and software development, the center, I believe, has been able to offer courses and to train, as I heard, more than 275 professionals, government officials from various ministries, students, teachers, and researchers. I'm happy to note that a student from this very center, I believe, has won a trophy with the first position at the 6th Namibia National Cybersecurity Competition.
In our next video, the police in the Erongo region have raised concerns about the escalating number of suicides and called on individuals to seek support instead of attempting to take their own lives. Inspector Ileni Shapumba, Commander for Community Affairs in the Erongo region, said that statistics show that more men than women have taken their lives in the region. According to Shapumba, 16 people have taken their lives from the beginning of this year, and the majority of the cases reported came from Swakopmund Mondesa. Shapumba called on all leaders as well as the country as a whole to come together and devise a plan on how to reduce the number of suicide cases reported in the country.
What is worrying us mostly is the incidence of suicides. When we analyze these suicides reports, majority of the people that has taken their own lives were men. As we speak, from the beginning of this year in January, we have up to 16 people that committed suicides. Out of these 16, 1 was a female and the rest were male. Majority of the people that committed suicides majority of the reported cases came from Mondesa. We do not know what are the causes, but we hear, no, the person will travel to the north or travel somewhere. The person was preparing for the wedding and so forth, and later we find the person has hanged himself, or the person has taken his or her own life. We had recently facilitated a men's conference. We thought some of these activities have really assisted to shape the way we react to situations that are facing us. But if you have incidents of suicide, and the majority of these cases were reported in the month of May. As we speak, last night there was a person that committed suicide in Mondesa again. So it leaves us with questions to say, what is it that we can do collectively as communities really to assist those that are in need? And what can the people do themselves when you find yourself in a situation that's pressing you in a corner, and you think the only way to come out is by means of taking your own life? It's a worrisome situation, and we are calling upon the church leaders, we are calling upon social workers, we are calling upon community leaders, we are calling upon everybody really to see how best can we solve some of these incidents.
That brings us to the end of our visual news segment. Moving on, Kawana awaits AG on same-sex direction. An update on this story follows in the newspaper review segment.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
Is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
Getting into our newspaper review, the Namibian Sun's front page reports that Home Affairs Minister Albert Kawana says the ministry will not process any resident-related permits for foreign same-sex spouses married to Namibians as ordered by the Supreme Court until he hears from the Attorney General. The Supreme Court recently ordered the ministry to, in terms of the country's immigration laws, issue domicile and related permits to foreign gay spouses married to Namibians who apply for such permits, as is done for heterosexual couples. On page 3, 16 family members who died as a result of suspected food poisoning at Kayova village in the Kavango East region will be buried on Saturday. This was confirmed by Ndiona constituency councillor Laurentius Makoya, who said preparations for both the memorial service set for Friday and the burial on Saturday are going according to plan. The government will pay for the funeral expenses, he said. The victims were amongst 22 family members who on the 27th of May ate suspected poisoned food, having earlier in the day traded reeds for grains so that they could secure a meal. On the Republicans' front page, it informs that the future of Medical Aid Fund BankMed is in question over concerns that its future operations may come under threat. The findings are detailed in a report on concerns that the fund has been subject to excessive claims while contributions to the fund are not sufficient. The fund said in a statement that it has been experiencing exceptionally high claims in the last few years, and unfortunately, the solvency level of the fund has declined over this period. This is mainly due to member and health professionals' behavior in terms of overutilization of benefits over and above the budget expectation. On page 3, the month of May has seen significant declines in international prices for wheat, corn, vegetable oils, and cheese, while the price of rice, sugar, and meat rose. This is good news for Namibia, which is a net importer of food and is heavily reliant on foreign markets for the import of maize and wheat, among other things. On the Allgemeine Zeitung's front page, it leads with an article about the launch of the so-called H2 Atlas, which has been created under the coordinating leadership of SASCAL. This comes as an interactive app that displays a world map for that matter, a map of the SADC, on which stakeholders and/or interested parties can click on various data fields to consider different permutations, enabling them to assess the production potential for green hydrogen in Southern Africa. On page 3 of the Allgemeine Zeitung, the state-owned enterprise Namibia Post and Telecommunications Holdings, which is a parent company, is destined to be dissolved next year in line with a parliamentary resolution. Now, the enterprise now intends to conduct an inventory of all its properties to determine the exact extent of its assets, which will be redistributed to its subsidiaries and/or the state. Do stay with us. After the break, we continue with our newspaper review.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
We continue with our newspaper review. On the Namibian's front page, it reports that the Business and Intellectual Property Authority has suspended two officials for allegedly enabling the forging of documents linked to the sale of $50 million lithium entity. The suspension came a few months after a mining company accused businessman Peter Shifwako of falsifying documents to sell an entity involved in the controversial sale. On page 3, several northern parts of the country and areas receiving electricity through NORAD were last night plunged into darkness after failing to meet the deadline that was set by NamPower yesterday. On New Era's front page, Ohangwena police are investigating a case of 3 women allegedly scammed of $700,000 by a close male friend who pretended to be a female traditional healer. The suspect, Elias Tobias, has since been arrested and appeared in the Enana Magistrates Court yesterday. On page 3, a large number of first-year students from the International University of Management expressed their disappointment to the media after finding out that the Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund is not going to fund the new Logistics and Transport Management course they registered for this year. IUM students who requested anonymity said when they registered for the course, they were never informed that it will take time for the course to be accredited by Namibia Qualification Authority. On to Market Watch reports that the increase in the stock of foreign reserves in April will support a small repo rate hike by the Bank of Namibia next week, analysts said. Now, the stock of international reserves increased to $51.8 billion in April 2023 relative to $48.3 billion at the end of March 2023. This level remains adequate to support the currency peg between the Namibia dollar and the South African rand, the central bank said. Wiz Andrada starts trading on OTCQB. More on this story in Economic News after the break.
Ek is Coretti Du Plessis.
My name is Justice Shahama. I am Namibian.
Hallo, ek is Damien Stevens.
En ek is 'n Namibianer in Nederland.
Bly tans in New Orleans in Amerika.
In Heidelberg in beautiful Toronto, Canada.
Currently part of... So I'm currently based in South Carolina in the US.
Getting into our economic news, Andrata Mining Limited shares commenced trading today on the OTCQB to access U.S. retail investors and to broaden the shareholder register. The OTCQB, also called the venture market, is the middle tier of the over-the-counter market for U.S. stocks. Andrata owns the tin and lithium mine at Wiz. Andrata is also listed on London's alternative investment market and the Namibian Stock Exchange. Anthony Viljoen, CEO of Andrata, said admission to the OTCQB market is a key step in Andrata's strategy to broaden the company's investor base by making its shares more accessible to the North American institutional and retail investors. Let's take a look at our economic indicators. On the selected NSX stock, the Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 24.22 and against the euro at 20.86 at $2 gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the selected NSX stock closing prices, all prices remain the same. Overall index closed at 0.20%, going down. Zinc went down 1.40% and Brent crude oil went down 1.71%, trading at $75.38 per barrel. Angola and Portugal signed a new cooperation agreement. Stay with NMH1 for an update.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Let's take a look at news from across Africa. The president of Angola, João Lourenço, welcomed the Portuguese president, Antonio Costa, in the capital, Luanda, yesterday. Ministers from both countries signed a total of 13 agreements ranging from financial to legal. I have to say that we sensed a great willingness to collaborate on the part of the Portuguese justice system, with whom we were able to exchange not only information but also the alignment of Angola's anti-corruption strategy, and to say that in principle everything that was asked of the Portuguese authorities so that we could find the right correspondent, said Angolan President João Lourenço. Now, the Portuguese Prime Minister announced a significant increase in the credit line granted to Angola to support the Angolan government's ambition and strategic approach to diversifying the country's economy. We have significantly increased the credit line from 1,500 to 2 billion euros, announced Antonio Costa, Prime Minister of Portugal. The cooperation program signed between Portugal and Angola will last until 2027. We'll get into the international news shortly. Prince Harry will become the first senior British royal to give evidence in court for more than a century when he appears today in his lawsuit against a publisher whose titles he accused of phone hacking and other unlawful activities. Harry, the fifth in line to the throne, failed to show up as expected on Monday at London's High Court, where he and more than 100 others are suing Mirror Group's newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, over allegations of widespread wrongdoing between 1991 and 2011. However, the younger son of King Charles will on Tuesday and on Wednesday face hours of cross-examination in the witness box from Andrew Green, MGN lawyers. Over 33 newspaper articles, he says, were based on information which had been unlawfully obtained. It will make him the first senior royal to give evidence for 130 years. To give evidence over 130 years. Now, the MGN trial began last month with lawyers for Harry and the other claimants seeking to prove that unlawful information gathering was carried out with the knowledge and approval of senior editors and executives. After the break, we get into your local sports news. Do stay with us.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
Getting into our local sports news, Namibia's FIFA-appointed Normalization Committee's Dina Shitula has responded to growing concerns about a lack of coaches for Namibia's national women's football teams, the Young Gladiators and the Brave Gladiators. The second round of the UCI Marathon World Cup saw Namibian-born cyclist Vera Loser take third place in the race. Competitors set out from the ancient village of Finnborgo to take on a huge 100-kilometer course that featured nearly 4,000 meters of climbing. Brave Warriors ace defender Ryan Nyambe could become the first Namibian to ply his stride in the Champions League, with sources claiming that Queen's Park Rangers FC are interested in his services. We take a look at the international sports shortly. Getting into our international sports news, this year's Ultimate Human Race is the second consecutive down run from the Pietermaritzburg City Hall to Hollywoodbet's Kingsmead Stadium in eThekwini. Parma defender Alessandro Siccardi will play international football for Australia rather than Italy and has been named in the Socceroos squad for a friendly against world champions Argentina in China next week. West Ham defender Thilo Kehrer has urged his team to make history by winning their first major trophy in 43 years when they face Fiorentina in the Europa Conference League final on Wednesday. After the break, we get into your highlights. Do stay with us. Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Dutch ministers list in a speech rate in taxes and how much.
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
We bring you
economic indicators, tomorrow's weather and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweyong.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk. We bring jou
latest weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
Here are the news highlights from today's broadcast. The president of Angola, João Lourenço, welcomed the Portuguese President Antonio Costa in the capital Luanda yesterday. Ministers from both countries signed a total of 13 agreements ranging from financial to legal. Prince Harry will become the first senior British royal to give evidence in court for more than a century when he appears today in his lawsuit against a publisher whose titles he accuses of phone hacking and other unlawful activities. Brave Warriors ace defender Ryan Nyembe could become the first Namibian to ply his trade in the Champions League, with sources claiming that Queen's Park Rangers FC are interested in his services. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with Animate at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia, Africa, and the world, ranging from current affairs, economic news, sports, and international headlines. I am Glenn Rashipura. Until next time.